Hey guys, Veronica here. Welcome to another exciting seed starting season. We are 8 weeks until our last frost here in Central California, and I've been getting a lot of questions about how do I start and when do I start and how are you succession planning, how is all of that being managed, and I thought now is as good a time as any to just go over what I've been working with and working on for like the last season, the last couple of seasons. So without further ado, this is probably going to feel like an infomercial. I assure you that it's not. I have just found products that I love and I want to share them with you. So for anyone who's been around for a while, you know that I'm all about like upcycled and recycled containers. Well, last year I ran into some trouble because I was trying to start a lot of seeds and I needed trays to start those seeds in. And I went to the nursery or the big box store to look for trays, and all I could find were the Jiffy trays. You guys know what I'm talking about if you've been growing for a while. They're that flimsy plastic, and I know how hard I am on my seed starting supplies. And that trays get shuffled and shoved around and like dragged across counters and ground. And typically with those flimsy plastic trays, what happens is I start to wear down these corners very quickly. They're already a weak point to begin with. And then the trays don't hold water anymore, or they leak all over furniture inside, and I couldn't imagine working with flimsy trays again. And so I went online, I started doing some research and looking for what options were available, and I kept coming across Bootstrap. And so Bootstrap Farmer is a company that's out of Texas. They make a lot of stuff in the US, and they basically were saying, we have the strongest trays on the market. So I said, okay, I'll order a couple and see how they do. And I basically fell in love. And now most of my seed starting stuff is Bootstrap, but I just wanted to walk you through what I've ordered from them, how I'm using it, and what I like about it. And then you can make your own decision. But if you decide that it sounds like something that would work for you, then there's a link in the description below that will take you there to check out all of the products they offer. So the first thing I ever bought from them were these 1020 trays. Now they're called 1020s. This one is filthy, I know, but they're called 1020s because they are 10 inches by 20 inches. It really helps when you're imagining the size of what you're putting in there to figure out like how many things you can fit. You know you have 10 inches by 20 inches to work with. So these trays are awesome because while they flex a little bit, you can basically hold them full like this or even like this, and it's not going to like crack and break on you. This one, maybe, it smells like it. There were a few that I found for whatever reason in the goat pen, and any other tray would have just been destroyed. And these had like a few hoof scratches, but there was no breaking, no bending. I couldn't tell you which ones I bought a year ago and which ones I bought a month ago at this point. Like, they're all equally as dirty. But that, I think, just goes to show like how sturdy they are too. So I haven't had any break or develop holes in the last year. Again, I'm very rough on things, and so I just wanted to recommend these 1020s. Now, when we're talking about succession planting, one of the things that I've found to be the most helpful in the last few months, really, and this is thanks in part to whoever's running the social media at Bootstrap. They reached out and they were like, we'd really like you to try some of our plug trays. And I'm like, ugh, I hate plug trays, because I've hated plug trays for a really long time because the plastic is super flimsy. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This is not a flimsy one. But so with a typical plug tray, when you pick it up like this, it almost immediately cracks in the middle. Now, these, the little pods that each plant is in, each cell, those tend to be pretty flexible, soft plastic that will like crack and break. And so you might use a plug tray a few times, like just the typical commercial ones that are thin plastic, and all of a sudden half the plugs are broken. You can't use them. Or maybe the plug is only half the height of the tray, so it doesn't reach to the bottom and it's really hard to water. And you have to overhead water, and then you deal with damping off and blah, 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 you know? So I was very resistant and hesitant to try plug trays, but they wanted to send me some. So I said, okay, like, yeah, I'll take some plug trays and see. And then I ended up buying more plug trays because they work so well. So you can see too, there's roots coming out the bottom of these because this touches exactly into the bottom of the 1020 trays. Now, how does this fit into succession planting? So once a week, usually on the weekend, I will sit down with a cup of tea and some good music, and I will sit and I will sow seeds in at least one of these trays. Now you'll see that I have my trays numbered. There's a number on the far corner, and then there's numbers going all the way across. Rather than putting little tags in and having all those tags fall out and going through the time of making tags for some seeds that just might not germinate, I have a notebook that corresponds, and so it'll tell me tray number and then each of the cell numbers. And from there, if the seeds germinate and grow well enough to graduate from this tray, then they'll get a tag in like a 6-pack or in a 2-inch pot. This is the 200 cell tray, and so it will fit 200 cells of plants. I will usually do like an entire row of 10 for each variety. Sometimes I'll do a quadrant of like, 40 or 50. And so it really depends on like what your gardening goals are in that moment. But this one for the 200 cell, it's a lot of smaller flower seeds like poppies. There's a lot of herbs. There's chamomile. There's different mints and balms in here. Maybe a couple of, that looks like it might be lovage. I'm like, it has a celery leaf. It's lovage. And so yeah, it's a really nice way if you have old seeds, seeds that, you're not sure if they're going to germinate, lots of varieties you want to do. Highly recommend a plug tray. The best partner for a plug tray, are you going to stay there? There. That I found is, this was also what I bought when I first bought from them. I got the 1020s and I got a couple of domes, and then I immediately bought more domes because their domes are a lot sturdier plastic than others, and others I've tried, and they're nice and high, so you can see that it creates like good space to create sort of like a microclimate around the seedlings. They have these vents on top so that you can contain whatever humidity there is, or let some out if it's necessary. And I just really like them. I have some that are a year old, and they have a little bit of, they're in a stack behind the camera, but they have a little bit of just like dirt and discoloration, but nothing that's too extreme. And then the new ones, they're doing really well. Like, again, I throw things around, and so short of you leaving it in a corner in the sun with something heavy on top of it, generally they're not going to deform significantly, and they will fit on your trays really well. So that's the 200. And then this is the 128. This is another way that I've been succession planning. So this has 128 cells per tray. Again, we're looking at the way that I've labeled it, where there's a tray number on the corner and then cell numbers across for each row. This is super nice because I can start 128 seeds in here, or 128 varieties. Well, it wouldn't be varieties, but 128 plant starts essentially. And then if I have, on this one it's like 16, maybe 20 that didn't come up. But it's not like if I had 16 or 20 on a 6-pack that didn't come up and it's taking up half the tray waiting for seeds to germinate. It's just a few inches of space. So these guys are going to either get transplanted into the garden or get transplanted into 6-packs, or even these 2.5-inch pots, depending on what the mental planning is for them and where they're going. You'll see the root development. This is the greens, and the root development is really nice for the quantity of space that they have to come out, because they just have this little hole in the bottom. And the way that you get them out is that you can either use a chopstick and pop them up from the bottom, or what I like to use is my fondue fork. They make like dibblers and things that you can buy, but dig through your drawer, dig through your grandma's drawer in the kitchen, your great aunt's drawer, like somebody who used to throw fondue parties that doesn't anymore. Find yourself a fondue fork, like go to the thrift store. They're $0.25 sometimes. And find yourself a fondue fork, because they are really my favorite tool for popping plugs out of trays. I will do one just to show you how nice and easy they are, but let's see if I can do this. I only have one camera right now. But you just get the fork in there, up along the side, and then, yeah, and then you can see it just pops it out just like that. Yeah, And so that's really nice for a plug tray. I'm going to put it back in there because I don't have a spot for it yet. But for succession planting greens, I think most home gardeners probably wouldn't need to do more than 128 per week, unless you're eating a lot of greens. But it's a really nice way to get that process going. You know, you just sit down, jam out for half an hour, depending on the varieties that you're doing. You could do a full tray in like 15-20 minutes if you're doing mostly the same variety, and not being, you know, a Looney Tunes like I am, where I'm doing a lot of trials and trying to see what I like to grow still. And yeah, these guys will either get potted up or they'll go out, like I said. But that's how I'm dealing with succession planting for anything that's not direct sow, and anything that's a smaller seed. Like, these are a really great tool for that. I always have more stuff that's ready to go out, because from there, then once they're at that size and they have like some adult leaves, they'll go into 6-packs like this guy. And so you can see, this is a good example. This is a full tray. There's a little water in it because I just watered them and I can feel it sloshing back and forth. And you can see, like, I can support this from the middle of the tray and it doesn't bend or break. Now, these tomatoes I just potted up 2 or 3 days ago, and they are in a container that is not Bootstrap. It's actually called Modern Grower. So they're in these 6-packs. I got them from Epic Gardening. I saw that he had them, and I immediately, last year, I was like, yes, sign me up. I can stand on one of these and it won't break. And that's when I knew I needed to have it, because I'm looking for things that are going to last me for as long as possible, that are going to take the most abuse as possible and still keep working really well. And I don't want to replace plastic things. Like, we're not able to effectively recycle a lot of plastic. So I want to buy plastic. If I need to buy plastic, I want to buy it once, buy it for as close to life as possible. If I'm not going to get, solid 5 or 10 years out of it, and then be able to recycle it for the amount of recycling that's available, like, I don't want it in my life. I don't want something that's going to last me like 3 months and then I have to replace it. Like, it needs to last longer. So I like these for that reason. Very, very sturdy, very rigid. They also have these really nice slits on each of the cell, in addition to a very easy to push through sort of finger hole and more space. So this soaks up water nicely in the 1020s. They nest in there very nicely. I can fit, I think it's a dozen. Yeah, I can fit a dozen of these in a 1020. So there's 72 cells total if it's full of 6-packs. And the root development is great because of these little side slits. Like, you get a lot of really nice air pruning and then roots coming through the bottom. Those are leeks. I also have an example here with some fennel that got potted up like a week ago. You can see the roots coming through the side there. So those are my favorite 6-packs right now, and will be for a while, to be honest. I have a ton of them. I bought the big box because I saw them and I was like, yes, root rot is an issue. Anaerobic soil conditions is an issue. Like, let's fix that and do it with something I'm buying mostly for life. Now, from there, if I'm potting up again, because sometimes I do, sometimes the goal for me when I'm succession planning is to get things into 6-packs, and then, which happens in like, I probably sow seeds in one of these trays, and then it's like a week or two. It's usually like 2 weeks. And then I transplant whatever survived that tray or whatever germinated into the 6-packs. And then it's another week or two. And then they go out in the garden. Now, if I don't have space in the garden, or maybe it's just not a size that I want to plant out yet, then it goes into one of these 2.5-inch pots. And the 2.5-inch pots, they all fit. That's a Bootstrap pot. They all fit in this shallow tray. And they have a tray insert that will sit there. I'm going to show you very dangerously that I can hold the shallow tray on one end. I'm supporting it with my other hand because I just don't want to drop these. But we're holding it on one corner, and this tray is not bending or breaking. And I'm just like, this is why I own so many of their products, is because I am able to do stuff like that. Like, I'm not concerned about plants falling out of my hand suddenly because the trays failed me. And I think that it's worth it's worth not having to replace trays, and it's worth the peace of mind that comes with having a sturdy tray. Like I'll show you with this one, that if you wanted to, you could hold it one-handed on one end. There's no bending, there's no real warping. I don't recommend walking around like that because it's really hard on your wrists, but you can do it. And so it just speaks to companies looking at like quality and longevity in gardening supplies. It's something that has been overlooked for years now. And I'm really glad that there's now companies that are stepping forward and being like, yeah, we'll address these concerns. Yes, we want to make things that will make you a customer for life, but you're not going to be buying from us every 6 months. So I really appreciate that. And I wanted to share that with you guys because I think it's cool. Again, this is like these 2.5 inch pots. That's the size that I like, nursery size. And then they'll go out from there. And there's not a whole lot of things that go into this size, but sometimes I have too much in the succession planting portions because it's like sort of planned in my head, but not on a volume scale so much as just on a filling a tray scale. It makes succession planting really easy though. You can end up growing a lot more plants than you need. You could probably sell them on Facebook Marketplace or share them with friends. It just, like, I like having too many plants and I like not having to go to the nursery. Now, one of the other things, I just showed you this tray, holding it up, weird. So this is another Bootstrap product that I got that I'm playing with. And these are 5x5 trays. And I'm using them for propagating herbs that propagate through root divisions and some cuttings that will get like sort of additional roots along the branches where it's like if the branch is touching the ground, it'll develop some roots. So I'm using these for that. And all I did was I put a whole bunch of like, I was pulling apart beds of like mint and oregano, and I pulled a whole bunch of the root cuttings from what I was pruning out and buried them in these 5x5s, put 8 of them in this 1020 right here, shoved it under one of the benches in the greenhouse, and a few months later I have some really nice 5-inch by 5-inch starts for these herbs. It's mostly mint, there's a few oregano, but just, you know, water every so often. Like, it was super, super simple. I'm trying to find more use cases for the 5x5s. I like them for harvesting as well. Like, I could see this, you know, picking a handful of tomatoes, picking a handful of peas, and just having a 1020 that has 8 of these, and you're able to keep, you know, all of whatever you're picking kind of sectioned off, or if you're doing like specific trials to keep track of things. I am also using them to grow flowers in the greenhouse so I can be surrounded by flowers when there's none blooming outside. All these little spring crocus. I love them. Some things I can't grow because of livestock outside, so I just have to do it in here. And what else? Oh, this was the last thing. So you guys have seen these before, but anyone who's new, these are organizer drawer trays from the dollar store. They work really well. It's not that tall. They work really well as windowsill trays to keep your plants in. It will fit 2 6-packs and one of these 2.5 or 1 4-inch. I think it fits 4 or 5 4-inch pots. I can't remember exactly, but I've used them for a while. I love them. They're $1. They're great. If you're looking in terms of like budget, like definitely go for these. It's like Home Essentials, I want to say, is the brand, and it's at one of the dollar stores. And I think you can buy them by the case online as well. But they're fantastic because they keep your windowsills from getting wet and allow you to bottom water with 6-packs or pots. I think that's pretty much all of the seed starting stuff. One of the things I will say with something like this, what is it? It's 30 something cells. When you get into the 2-inch pots, is that one, it has a shallow tray instead of the deep tray. So you want it sitting in the shallow tray so that the bottoms fit. Although I'm playing with the idea of using just the insert with one of the deep trays because it doesn't touch the bottom, and then you can get good root development through those holes. But right now it's all about it being able to water through the holes for the use case that I have. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell. Follow me on Instagram at FlavorKit. And again, the link for all of these things will be in the description below. Please use it if you're interested in checking it out. And until next time, happy gardening.